The power of habit. It was 5 a.m., and the dim light of dawn barely touched the edges of the horizon. Emma sat on her bed, staring at her alarm clock, fighting the familiar pull of her warm blankets. Every morning, she promised herself she'd wake up early and go for a run. And every morning, she succumbed to the comfort of sleep. For months, she had been stuck in this cycle, hating herself for her lack of discipline. Her life was beginning to feel like a collection of broken promises. A few years ago, she had been full of ambition, determined to take on the world, pursue her passion for writing, and live a life of purpose. But somewhere along the way, the fire inside her had dimmed. Every day felt the same. Wake up late, rush through the day, come home exhausted, and collapse into bed without having done anything that felt meaningful. It was the voice of self-doubt that echoed loudest in her mind. You're just not strong enough. You'll never change. The words were cruel, but they were familiar, like old friends that had taken up permanent residence in her mind. But something changed that morning. Maybe it was the quiet desperation in her chest. Or maybe she was just tired of feeling defeated. Whatever it was, Emma swung her legs out of bed and stood up. She wasn't filled with motivation, and she wasn't thinking of the long-term benefits. She just knew she had to move. She threw on her running shoes, grabbed her jacket, and stepped out into the cold morning air. The first few steps were awkward, her muscles protesting, her lungs burning from the chilly air. She hadn't run in years, and every part of her body screamed at her to stop. But she kept going. Her mind wanted her to turn around, to go back to her warm bed, but she fought against it. One step at a time, one block at a time, she pushed forward. When she finally made it back home, her legs were shaky and her body was exhausted, but something else stirred inside her. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. Pride, not the arrogant kind, but the quiet, personal kind that comes from doing something hard when you didn't want to. That single run didn't change her life overnight, but it sparked something. The next morning, she woke up at the same time and did it again. And the morning after that, the first few weeks were a battle against herself. There were days when she stumbled, hitting snooze on her alarm and slipping back into old patterns. But each time she forced herself to start again. No matter how many times she failed, she kept going. Weeks turned into months, and her morning runs became a habit. But it wasn't just about running anymore. Emma started to notice other changes. The discipline she was cultivating in one area of her life began to spill over into others. She found herself writing more, something she hadn't done in years. At first it was just journaling, simple reflections on her day, but soon it grew into something deeper. She started working on short stories, then essays, rediscovering the passion she thought she had lost forever. Her relationships started to improve too. She was more present with her friends and family, more patient and understanding. She realized that the anger and frustration she used to carry around weren't because of other people. They were because of her own internal dissatisfaction. But now, with each day she stuck to her habits, she felt more in control of her life. The things that used to bother her seemed smaller, less significant. One evening, after a long day at work, Emma sat down at her desk to write. As her fingers hovered over the keyboard, she paused, reflecting on the past few months. She realized that the small, seemingly insignificant decision to wake up and run had been the catalyst for everything else. It wasn't about the running itself. It was about the commitment to change, the willingness to push through discomfort, and the understanding that she had control over her actions. Emma had always believed that change needed to be drastic and immediate, that one big decision could transform everything. But now, she understood the truth. Real change wasn't a single moment of inspiration. It was a series of small choices, repeated over and over, until they became ingrained in the fabric of who you are. There were still days when she struggled, days when she felt like slipping back into her old habits. But now she had proof that she was capable of more. She had built a foundation, brick by brick, through her habits. As she sat there, fingers poised over the keyboard, Emma smiled. She knew she wasn't perfect, and she didn't need to be. She just needed to keep showing up, one step at a time, one choice at a time. She was creating the life she had always wanted. In that moment, she realized that the power of habit wasn't just about discipline, it was about hope. It was about believing that even the smallest effort could make a difference.